Ambassador Catherine Liu could feel the collective weight of thousands of alien eyes fixed on her, each gaze full of disdain or pity or tense curiosity. She stood at the center of the Galactic Council chamber on Helia Prime, a colossal dome made of shimmering plates that filtered the red sun's light into soft shadows. For centuries, this chamber had witnessed the resolution of wars, the formation of alliances, and the punishment of those who threatened the cosmic order. Now, it was humanity's turn to face judgment. Counselor Artem, representing the Tyrell, offered Catherine a slight nod of sympathy from his seat. His tall, slender figure was covered in iridescent feathers that changed color with the tilt of his head. Artem had always been one of humanity's few friends, speaking up in the council whenever certain laws seemed too rigid, too antiquated. However, this time, even his eloquence was unlikely to avert the decision that had already been made behind closed doors. High Counselor VRYX presided over the session from the highest podium, a being with chitinous plating, multiple eyes, and a pronounced set of ridges that flexed in agitation whenever he spoke. "The matter before us," VRYX announced, his voice echoing in the acoustic marvel of a chamber, "is the final ruling on humanity's repeated infractions against Council rules. We have tolerated their meddling in the affairs of other species for far too long. The hacking incidents against the Kix Dominion's warships, the infiltration of the Drell security systems, and the countless practical jokes that turned interstellar negotiations into public farce. Are we not to uphold the stability of our shared galaxy?" The murmurs that ensued came from thousands of different species, each distinct in physiology and temperament. Ambassador Catherine Liu cleared her throat and tried to maintain composure. "Distinguished counselors," she began, her amplified voice resonating through hidden speakers, "humanity has always valued innovation and creativity. While we admit that some of our actions might have been unorthodox, we meant no lasting harm. Our so-called hacks often minimized bloodshed. We reprogrammed drones and deflected entire fleets without firing a single lethal shot. Surely that is worthy of consideration." VRYX curled his two upper limbs, an unsettling gesture of annoyance among his kind. "Consideration? Your species has repeatedly destabilized delicate political relationships. Your pranks on the Drell nearly sparked a trade war. The Kix Dominion demanded reparations for the unauthorized infiltration of their capital's defense grid. You turned their war drones into dancing sculptures. Such an act might seem benign, even comedic to you, but to them it was an egregious humiliation that cost them political standing. You have systematically disrespected the order we spent millennia constructing." A second voice emerged from a seat near the center. "We do not deny the Council's frustration," Counselor Artem said softly, his feathers shifting from lavender to pale blue. "Yet, do we truly believe that exile is a proportional response? Humanity's creativity has also provided benefits, cures for diseases, improvements in renewable energy, and innovative designs for space infrastructure that many of us have adapted for our own worlds." A click of chitin sounded from the High Counselor, followed by the faint hiss of disapproval from other counselors who supported him. "Your concern is noted, Counselor Artem," VRYX said, "but we must hold them accountable. Their repeated disregard for protocol cannot be overlooked. We have debated lesser sanctions, fines, trade restrictions, or the probation of their ambassadors. All attempts at negotiation ended with them pushing the boundaries again. We are left with but one option." Catherine's heart hammered inside her chest. She knew what he was about to say. Rumors had drifted through diplomatic channels for months, but she had refused to believe the Council would resort to such extreme measures. A small part of her still hoped for a last-minute reprieve, some compromise or arbitration that might let humanity remain among the stars with everyone else. "We, the Galactic Council," VRYX intoned, "hereby decree that humanity shall be exiled from the Helia Federation and all affiliated territories. The boundary known as the Galactic Barrier will be extended around their home system. No human vessel shall venture beyond it, and no outsider shall enter. Humanity is stripped of all membership privileges. They have 48 standard hours to recall their people from outside their solar system, upon which the barrier will be sealed. Protests erupted from various corners of the chamber. Some jeered in agreement, others shouted in anger. Artem pressed a hand to his temple, a gesture of frustration. Catherine Liu stood silent, the blow falling with finality. The council's guards, dressed in ceremonial armor, began to escort her away. She could only manage one question on her trembling lips. Is this truly the will of the council? Vararwax's black eyes pinned her in place. 16,000 to 3 in favor. The will of the council stands. The next days blurred into frantic activity. Human ships scrambled to evacuate mining outposts in the asteroid belts of far-off star systems. Colonists packed their research equipment from newly terraformed worlds. Families separated from their alien friends, making tearful farewells. When the final hour arrived, an eerie stillness fell over Earth's solar system. In the skies above Earth, shimmering energy lines traced arcs of light as advanced council technology erected the barrier. It manifested as an impenetrable shell at the edges of the heliosphere, fueled by the gravitational power of carefully placed anchor stations. Through this barrier, no human ship was meant to pass ever again. Generations on Earth had dreamed of forging an interstellar future, of building alliances and exploring unknown frontiers. Now, that dream was being shattered by an edict born of fear and resentment. Yet, even then, humanity refused to break. If anything, the injustice of being confined like unruly children served as a crucible that intensified their resolve. In the months after the barrier went up, governments collapsed and reformed. Terran nations that had bickered for centuries found common cause against an external force that had humiliated them as a species. One by one, old hostilities dissolved. Emerging from that turbulent unification was the United Human Federation, a nascent government that promised to propel humanity forward in this enforced isolation. Engineers, scientists, soldiers, dreamers, they all pledged themselves to a single mission, to ensure that humanity's exile was only temporary. If the Council was so certain that humans could not break their chains, then they had underestimated the very trait that defined humanity: relentless curiosity and a refusal to accept any limit imposed by others. 40 years elapsed. In the grand scheme of galactic politics, it was hardly a blink of an eye. But to humanity, these 40 years were transformative. Deprived of trade routes, resources, and easy solutions, they turned their focus inward with astounding fervor. Earth's cradle still had untapped depths. The gas giants provided raw materials in unimaginable abundance. Dwarf planets became stepping stones for a far-reaching network of laboratories and industrial centers. The Federation harnessed fusion power from Jupiter's helium-3, mastered solar collectors that drew unprecedented energy from the Sun, and colonized not only Mars, but also several of Saturn's moons. On an orbital platform circling Mars, Admiral Rayner surveyed a hangar filled with sleek new ships. Each hull gleamed with metamaterials designed to cloak electromagnetic signatures. Rayner, in her mid-50s, carried herself with calm authority. She had short-cropped hair and the slight wrinkles of a person who had spent half her life in vacuum suits. Alongside her walked a man in a crisp uniform covered in mission patches. "This is the HMS Dauntless," the man said. "Our first proof of concept in barrier penetration capability." Rayner nodded, resting a hand on the ship's cool hull. "Are you certain the Dauntless can really slip through the barrier?" "We've tested theoretical models, but the Council's technology still dwarfs our own in many respects." The man, Commander Isley, shrugged. "We've learned enough about dimensional harmonics and quantum tunneling to find a gap in their network. It's small, and we can't keep it open for long. But yes, we believe we can make a brief incursion, gather data, and then retreat." Rayner exhaled slowly. Over the decades, factions had formed within the Federation. One group, led by militaristic officers like General Marcus Atwood, demanded that humanity develop weapons powerful enough to challenge the Council head-on. Another group, which Rayner identified with, believed that ultimate victory came not through brute force, but through cunning, alliances, and out-of-the-box innovation. She saw the Dauntless mission as a possible bridge between these two philosophies, a show of strength that did not rely on direct confrontation. "When do we launch?" she asked. "In 24 hours. We're running final diagnostics now. I'll attend the launch in person." "Good work, Commander." Rayner was not naive. She knew that beyond the barrier, the galaxy had hardly remained static. But she also understood that the Council must have grown complacent, believing that a single energy field could keep humans caged forever. Humanity's true might was not in starships, but in their capacity to adapt to any obstacle. At the edge of the solar system, at a monitoring station controlled by the Council, Commander Threx was bored out of his mind. For 20 years, he had performed the same duty shift, watching the same readouts that never seemed to change. Most days, the only excitement was calibrating sensor arrays to measure cosmic dust or verifying the structural integrity of the barrier's anchor satellites. When the alarm blared, Threx nearly toppled out of his chair. Red lights flashed across the control panels, and his multiple limbs shook as he tapped the override keys. "What is happening?" he demanded, turning to the nearest subordinate. "Report. There's a power fluctuation in Sector 9 of the barrier," the subordinate said, her voice trembling. "Something is causing a dimensional rift." "I'm reading an incursion, Commander." Threx gaped at the data. A tiny craft, identified by its metallic signature as human in origin, had breached the barrier for precisely 7 seconds before vanishing into normal space again. The readings scrolled across the console. Quantum distortions, a resonance frequency that matched known technology of the Council. How had the humans accomplished this? "Send a Priority 1 message to Helia Prime," Threx barked. "They have to know the barrier is compromised." As soon as the words left his mouth, a second incursion spiked on his sensors. This time, the rift opened for 10 seconds, long enough for the station's passive scanners to pick up the vessel's ID. HMS Dauntless. Then it disappeared once more, leaving behind a wake of twisted energy. Had it returned to the solar system, or had it traveled deeper into Council space? Threx slammed one of his fists into the console in frustration. "This is impossible. That barrier is powered by a network of pulsars and gravitational inverters that the Council designed to be unassailable." Nothing in Threx's training prepared him for this scenario. He had always been taught that humans were impulsive, occasionally brilliant, but never so advanced as to outmaneuver the combined genius of the galaxy. Yet the data unfolding in front of him contradicted everything he had been told. A sense of dread settled over him. If the humans could do this, what else might they be capable of? On Earth, the day the Dauntless returned, the news spread like wildfire. After years of secrecy, the Federation now had hard evidence. The barrier was not an inviolable prison. With the data gleaned from those short rift crossings, scientists believed they could refine the process, possibly even hold the rift open long enough for an entire fleet to pass. General Marcus Atwood practically glowed with triumph when he addressed the Federation Assembly. His tall figure, clad in a black uniform with silver insignias, exuded confidence. "We stand at the cusp of reclaiming our rightful place among the stars. The Council sought to keep us in a perpetual timeout, as though we were children. They forgot that necessity is the mother of invention. In the last 4 decades, we have advanced our technologies in ways they cannot imagine." Admiral Rayner kept her expression neutral, though she felt uneasy about Atwood's rhetoric. She recognized the need for power in negotiations, but she dreaded the day that humans might march out with conquest in mind. There had to be a balance between pride and aggression. When the debate concluded, the Assembly voted in favor of a plan to approach the Council peacefully, at least at first. Yet they would do so with a demonstration of might, ensuring that no one in the galaxy could ignore their demands. Their ships would cross the barrier in unison, appear at Helia Prime, and request an audience under the banner of the newly christened United Human Federation. No longer mere exiles, they would return as equals, or, if necessary, as conquerors. Helia Prime was the shimmering jewel of the galaxy's core, an ancient city world spanning multiple strata. Clouds of luminous gas swirled in the upper atmosphere, harnessed by massive spires that collected energy from cosmic rays. Grand boulevards connected thousands of districts, each representing a different species. And at the heart of it all was the Galactic Council Tower, an architectural marvel of living crystal that towered over the cityscape. High Counselor of RYX had not changed much in 40 years, though the subtle cracks in his chitin and the slight droop of his ridges suggested advanced age. He presided over a meeting of ranking counselors to address the shocking revelations from the Soul Containment Zone. When Commander Threx's report came through, it was followed by weeks of anxious rumors. Humans had found a way out. They were preparing to appear at Helia Prime. Some said entire fleets had already breached the barrier. Others believed it was all a bluff. Varar YX refused to believe that humans had made such a sudden leap in technology. "We must proceed as if this is a hoax," he told the council. "I admit there may have been some minor disruptions in the barrier, but it is inconceivable that humanity could simply bypass the advanced locks we designed." Counselor Artem, still championing a more open-minded approach, ventured, "It would be wise to at least consider the possibility that they have. 40 years of isolation might have pushed them to innovate in ways we did not predict." A hush fell over the chamber as an aide rushed in, breathless and wide-eyed. "High Counselor, we are receiving an urgent transmission from within Helia Prime's orbit. The signature is human." Varar YX's ridges flared. "That can't be. There are no humans on Helia Prime. The barrier." He was cut off by an alarm that blared across the city. All external scanning arrays pointed skyward. The skies filled with silhouettes of ships that bore the insignia of the United Human Federation, each one reflecting starfire off angular hulls. There were at least 20 capital-class vessels, too many for Helia Prime's unprepared defenses to handle without a catastrophic conflict. Panic began to course through the capital's population, who had been told for decades that humans were contained, no longer a factor in galactic affairs. Among the largest ships was the UHF flagship Nova, a behemoth bristling with sensor arrays and exotic energy weapons. Its presence was a statement. "We are back." In a show of discipline and control, the human fleet took up formation above the city. Not a single shot was fired, but the threat was implicit. They had arrived in force. Varar YX demanded immediate contact. The entire council was convened to the central hall. Spectators filled the galleries, thousands of curious aliens who had not seen a human being in the flesh for decades. When the doors opened, Admiral Rayner led the delegation, flanked by General Atwood and several Federation scientists. They marched down the aisle with quiet confidence. Rayner inclined her head respectfully. "High Counselor, esteemed members of the Galactic Council, we come seeking dialogue." Varar YX's voice quivered, either with anger or fear. "Dialogue? You breach our barrier, appear uninvited in our capital space, and you speak of dialogue." General Atwood, unable to contain a smirk, responded, "And how exactly were we to request an invitation? You sealed us off from all official communication channels. We simply found a way to rectify the situation." Counselor Artem interjected quickly. "We should not let old wounds overshadow the gravity of this moment. They are here, and they have proven their resourcefulness. Let us hear what they have to say." At a signal from Rayner, one of the Federation scientists stepped forward and showcased a small orb that projected a live feed of advanced technologies. Everything from planet-side terraforming modules to the unique quantum rift engine that allowed them to bypass council blockades. "We have spent our exile creating solutions to problems that plague every corner of the galaxy. Hunger, limited resources, even the difficulties of traveling between star systems. We did not come to wage war, but we will not allow ourselves to be placed in a cage again." The hush that followed was broken by the outraged voice of RYX. "You claim benevolent intentions, but arrive with a display of force. The Council cannot be coerced." Admiral Rayner's eyes hardened. then let our presence be a reminder that we will never again be subject to your arbitrary decrees. We request membership in the Council as equals, with the right to govern ourselves and share in decision-making for the galaxy. Impossible, Var Hist. You have broken countless council laws. You remain a threat to peace. General Atwood stepped forward. Threat to peace? Let's not forget that in our so-called rebellious acts, no actual wars were started, no civilizations destroyed. We can say the same about you, can't we? You exiled us instead of hearing us out. But we stand prepared to put that behind us. Tension rose. Counselors muttered among themselves. Some recognized the danger of inflaming conflict with a species capable of penetrating the most secure barrier in history. Others, outraged by the seeming insolence of humanity, demanded immediate retaliation. The debate teetered on the brink of chaos, until Counselor Artem hammered a ceremonial staff against the floor to restore order. Let us call a formal vote, Artem proposed, to decide whether to open negotiations with humanity for readmission under new terms. We can still glean from their innovations. The galaxy itself might benefit from fresh perspectives. Var Ryx made a show of reluctance, but eventually signaled agreement. A vote, then, but know that I will personally oppose any such measure. The day ended with no definitive result. The Council required time to deliberate. Humanity's delegation was given temporary quarters in a restricted zone of the planet, their fleet parked in orbit but kept under close watch. For many counselors, the memory of humanity's cunning had not faded, and now the humans had advanced technologies and a formidable presence. The days that followed showcased a flurry of diplomatic maneuvering. Humanity continued to demonstrate their breakthroughs, inviting scientists from other species to visit the Nova's labs. Word spread of limitless solar conversion panels and advanced medical cures that addressed viral mutations across multiple ecosystems. Slowly, the hostility of certain factions softened when confronted with tangible benefits. High Counselor Var Ryx, however, rallied a conservative faction, claiming that a vote in favor of humanity's return would undermine the Council's authority. He insisted that humans had effectively blackmailed the galaxy by showing up with warships. Meanwhile, Counselor Artem and other reform-minded individuals emphasized the potential synergy in cooperation. Ancient Council procedures mandated that the official vote take place within a set time frame once the motion was introduced. General Atwood wanted to push harder, display more warships, test planetary defenses, demonstrate that humanity was not to be trifled with. Admiral Rayner resisted. She believed in a measured approach that would reflect maturity, not aggression. A wedge threatened to form within the delegation, reminiscent of the old days on Earth before unification. In a private conversation in the Federation's temporary quarters, Rayner addressed Atwood directly. We already have them on edge. One misstep, and they'll label us conquerors. That will galvanize every fearmonger in their ranks. Atwood frowned, but they need to understand we're not a minor inconvenience. We are powerful enough to stand on our own. We can't come crawling back on our knees. She nodded. Show of strength got us this far. Restraint might take us the rest of the way. The final day of deliberation arrived in a swirl of conflicting emotions. Thousands of council members packed the central hall, each species bringing its own perspective, prejudices, and hopes. The tension was palpable as Var Ryx took the podium to make his last appeal against readmitting humanity. Fellow counselors, he said, voice sharp with conviction, for centuries we have maintained a precarious peace. Humanity's unpredictable nature threatens everything we have built. They defy our laws. They meddle in the affairs of others. And now they brazenly bypass our barrier to demand equal status. If we capitulate, we undermine the very foundation of this council. Counselor Artem followed. No foundation remains intact forever without renewal. The humans did act rashly in the past, but remember how many times they defused conflicts that might have escalated into catastrophic wars. They did so using ingenuity, yes, sometimes unorthodox tactics. Are we so set in our ways that we refuse to see the possible future they bring? A future that might benefit all of us. A hush spread as the official voting commenced. For each of the tens of thousands of council members, a small terminal glowed with the choices: accept or reject. The system required time to tabulate results across massive distances, though in the heart of Helioprime, the transmissions were instantaneous. Soon, the giant hollow display pulsed with data as the final tallies poured in. When the results were revealed, a shockwave rippled through the chamber. 16,000 in favor, 422 opposed. The vote was decisive. It mirrored, with poetic irony, the old exile vote that had once sealed Earth away. Now it signaled a new beginning. VAR-RYX stared at the numbers, his ridges drooping in disbelief. You have made a grave mistake," he whispered, stepping down from the podium with halting motions. Admiral Rayner rose slowly. Her heart pounded as she looked at the display. The humans had secured not just a narrow victory, but an overwhelming mandate. She glanced toward the sector where Artem and other supporters sat, offering them a small, grateful nod. The new decree was read aloud by a neutral, automated voice that filled the hall. In accordance with Council protocol, the species known as humanity is hereby granted full membership rights. The barrier around their system shall be dismantled. Further conditions of membership will be subject to immediate negotiations, including but not limited to trade routes, diplomatic representation, and technological exchange. This measure takes effect immediately. A swell of cheers and murmurs of amazement arose. Humanity's delegation nodded with measured satisfaction. Even General Atwood managed a brief smile, though he also cast a wary eye at counselors who had staunchly opposed the motion. There was relief, celebration, and a bitter undercurrent where old resentments still lingered. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy witnessed the removal of the infamous barrier. The Council's advanced anchor stations powered down one by one, releasing the energy fields that had imprisoned the solar system. The process was highly publicized, a monumental symbol of shifting tides. As promised, humanity revealed a wide array of scientific breakthroughs. A wave of medical shipments alleviated disease outbreaks on distant worlds. Their advanced solar technology reignited dying colonies. Their quantum-based communications system opened stable channels across star systems that struggled with signal delays. Meanwhile, the Federation also gleaned valuable insights from centuries of Council knowledge. They studied ancient star charts, discovered lost troves of arcane data regarding intergalactic anomalies, and started forging alliances with species long wary of them. For the first time, Earth's representatives traveled freely on Helioprime, signing treaties and establishing cultural exchanges. High Counselor VAR-RYX resigned amid scandal, citing personal disgrace at the outcome of the vote. Counselor Artem assumed an interim leadership role, pledging to modernize the Council structures to reflect the galaxy's evolving needs. The old guard saw these reforms as an existential threat, but the wave of popular support among many species was undeniable. Billions across the galaxy viewed humanity not as the same cunning tricksters of the past, but as exemplars of how adversity could fuel innovation. In the newly expanded Council Hall, the United Human Federation's seat stood among the other prominent powers. Admiral Rayner was recognized as a key figure in bridging the rift. General Atwood took command of a defensive coalition fleet that included both human vessels and allied species ships, forging a sense of collective security the galaxy had seldom known. A joint statement was released. Let the memory of humanity's exile remind us that fear never yields progress. Only through collaboration do we expand our horizons. 10 more years passed in relative peace. Prosperity spread throughout the Helio Federation and beyond. The seeds of unity that humanity had sown while forging their empire in isolation began to bloom. Outposts on the frontier revealed new wonders, subspace rifts, wormholes, and signs of advanced civilizations lurking in neighboring galaxies. Humanity, no longer bound by short-sighted regulations, found friends among the Tyrell, the Bryn Collective, and even some races that once considered them enemies. In the City of Lights on Helia Prime, an event marked the 10th anniversary of humanity's reinstatement. Ambassador Catherine Liu, now retired from official duties, attended as a guest of honor. She marveled at how the city had changed. Alien youths greeted her in multiple languages, each one expressing fascination with human culture, music, and history. The synergy she witnessed reaffirmed her belief that exile, as painful as it had also been a catalyst for growth. While the celebrations continued, scientists revealed a new discovery: faint signals in the cosmic background radiation that suggested an intelligence beyond the known galaxy. It was only a rumor at first, but quickly gained traction among the Council's think tanks and the Federation's labs. If confirmed, it would be an unprecedented development. Humanity and the rest of the Council might set aside old rivalries and unite once more, this time in pursuit of intergalactic contact. Public reception ranged from excitement to dread. Some worried that discovering another civilization might rekindle the Council's impulse to isolate perceived threats. Others argued that the success of humanity's integration proved that openness was the better path. In a new era of reform, the majority opinion favored exploration over fear. People had tasted the benefits of cooperation. Few desired to return to quarantines and suspicion. In a bustling laboratory at the edge of Helia Prime's atmosphere, Admiral Rayner, now in a senior advisory role, stood with a circle of scientists and dignitaries. Project Athena was the centerpiece of a vast research effort into subdimensional signals, a specialized field that combined the knowledge of multiple species. Humans had contributed quantum rift theories, the Tyrell had given advanced sensor arrays, and the Bryn Collective offered unique fractal analytics. The synergy was breathtaking. The signal patterns are definitely artificial, Dr. Imani Baines, the lead human researcher, explained. We see repeated prime number sequences that correspond to the cosmic background echo. It's almost like a beacon. A tall, insectoid scientist from the Bryn Collective clicked its mandibles in agreement. We must attempt a reply. The question is whether to use standard channels or craft a quantum entangle message. Rayner pressed her lips together in thought. Memories of the day she had stood in the council hall flashed through her mind. Then, the humans' entire focus had been on forging a place within the galaxy. Now they were looking beyond, standing on the cusp of intergalactic communication. Let's do both, she said. We'll send a conventional subspace signal that any advanced civilization could decode, and we'll also attempt a more sophisticated quantum broadcast. Our message is simple. We acknowledge you and wish to learn. No one could predict what might come of this. Perhaps the unknown civilization was long dead, and the signals nothing more than echoes from a bygone era. Perhaps they thrived and would soon respond. Either way, there was an undeniable thrill in the lab, an echo of the spirit that had driven humanity to cross their first oceans, to colonize other planets, and to breach the Council's impenetrable barrier. Meanwhile, new political shifts occurred in the Council. Artem, widely respected for championing humanity's cause, revealed plans to retire. Despite success in bridging ties, he had grown weary of the daily bureaucracy. In a private meeting, Artem invited Admiral Rayner to share words of wisdom before stepping down. This galaxy has changed more in the past 50 years than it has in the previous 5 millennia, Artem said, his feather crest shifting between lavender and teal. I consider that a good thing. The old ways were comfortable, but stifling. Humanity's exile awakened us from complacency. Rayner offered him a warm smile. You took a risk standing by us when the Council was against us. For that, we'll always be grateful. Artem waved a graceful hand. I only nudged the door open. You do the rest. The question now is, will the Council remain open to the unknown, or will it one day revert to its old, fearful habits? That depends on all of us, she said. We've proven that cooperation yields results. We need to keep proving it until no one doubts it anymore. Artem nodded. Precisely. And soon, if your scientists are correct, we might face an entirely new cosmic landscape beyond our galactic borders. Back on Earth, in a vast city that had risen in the decades of isolation and subsequent expansion, a festival took place under the shimmering glow of orbital power rings. Skyscrapers bristled with solar capture rigs, and floating platforms housed gardens and parks in the upper atmosphere. The city was a testament to humanity's determination to thrive under any circumstance. Former Ambassador Catherine Liu strolled through the festival, greeted by warm cheers from citizens who remembered her role in those fateful days of exile. She stopped to observe an exhibit chronicling the planet's journey, from the moment the barrier sealed them in, through the forging of the Federation, to the triumphant day they re-emerged among the stars. The final displays showed the forging of new alliances and the promise of intergalactic contact. At the heart of the festival stood a statue, a towering figure of a human holding aloft a stylized ring that represented the shattered barrier. Around its base were inscribed the words, "Exile was our crucible. Unity was our salvation." Catherine Liu couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. From the darkest chapter of their history, humans had gleaned strength, forging what some now called the United Human Empire or Federation interchangeably, semantics that sparked lively debates among sociologists but unified the identity of the species. Earth was no longer merely Earth. It was a center of invention, a hub that other worlds visited to learn and exchange ideas. As the night wore on, the festival concluded with a light display in the sky. The orbital power rings dimmed momentarily, revealing the brilliance of the stars. In that moment, Catherine pondered the entire arc of her life, how she had once pleaded before the council to avoid exile, and how the outcome of that vote had paradoxically propelled humanity to unimaginable heights. Over the next few years, the council's watchers reported bursts of peculiar data from beyond the galactic rim. The signals correlated with what the joint project teams had detected, evidence of possible advanced entities outside the Milky Way. Debates began anew in the council halls. Should they proceed with an intergalactic expedition? The majority, having grown more open-minded, felt compelled to do so. It was decided a grand coalition of species, led by the council and heavily guided by human research, would launch an expedition fleet. These vessels would employ the warp rift technology the humans had refined to bypass the barrier, now adapted to an even larger scale to venture into the great cosmic unknown. Each major civilization would contribute a flagship to the expedition, ensuring that no single species dominated. Admiral Rayner, by then widely recognized for her strategic acumen, was asked to oversee the mission. She accepted, with the blessing of the Federation. Old foes like the Drell, once humiliated by human pranks, cautiously extended peace offerings. The galaxy had, in many ways, come full circle from distrust to collaboration. Shortly before departure, Rayner visited Helioprime once more, meeting with a now-retired VAR-YX. The ex-High Counselor lived in a private estate, overshadowed by the legacy of the vote that had undone his rule. "You came all this way," he said, voice tinged with regret. "To see me off?" "I came to extend an invitation," Rayner replied gently. "To the new age. I'm not naive. I know we had our differences, but we also know you led the council for centuries of relative stability." VAR-YX's eyes flicked with a complex mix of bitterness and longing. Stability can be another word for stagnation. Perhaps, she conceded, but it can also be a foundation. When a new expedition finds what lies beyond, perhaps we'll see that every step we took, yours and mine, was necessary. He stared at her for a long moment, then lowered his gaze. "I once believed your species would destroy everything the council built. Now I see you may have saved it. If not from external threats, then from our own complacency. Go, Admiral. Show the universe what we can achieve when we abandon our fear." On the day the expedition fleet departed, galaxies away from that morning in Helioprime, when Catherine Liu stood accused, the air buzzed with anticipation. The combined armada, nearly 100 ships strong, assembled at a staging area near the edge of the Milky Way. This location was chosen to minimize gravitational interference and facilitate the warp rift jump into intergalactic space. A hush fell over countless watchers in real time or connected by quantum entanglement feeds. Aboard her command vessel, Rayner took in the gathered fleet. Earth ships side by side with elongated Tyrell cruisers, swirling Bryn bioships, and robust Drell carriers. Every corner of the galaxy was represented. She activated the ship-wide comm channel. To all vessels in the expedition, this is Admiral Rayner. Our mission stands as a testament to how far we've come. Once upon a time, humans were exiles, sealed off by those who believed we were too reckless, too disruptive. Today, we stand united with those who once feared us. We do not know what lies beyond the barrier of our galaxy, but we face the unknown together. Let that spirit guide us as we take this next step. A wave of acknowledgments poured in, the chatter of alien languages blending into an exhilarating cacophony of ambition and wonder. In unison, the ships powered up their rift drives, harnessing space-bending energies refined by decades of clandestine research under Earth's enforced isolation. Swirls of shimmering starlight twisted at the center of the formation, forming a luminous corridor. One by one, the ships vanished into that cosmic threshold, voyaging into the uncharted darkness beyond the Milky Way. For a brief moment, as her vessel plunged into the rift, Admiral Rayner glimpsed a swirl of lights. Distant galaxies scattered across the infinite void, each a cradle of potential life. A surge of awe coursed through her veins. They were truly free, unbound not only from the Council's barrier, but from the limiting beliefs that had once shackled them. When the last ship disappeared, the swirling corridor closed, leaving empty space behind. Yet the galaxy they left would never again be the same. The lessons of cooperation, fueled by the unlikely impetus of humanity's exile, had reshaped civilizations across the stars. Earth watched from afar, connected by quantum entanglement relays that relayed bursts of data from the expedition fleet. In the days, months, and years to come, they would listen for the signals that might indicate contact or discovery. They would also remain vigilant, for the unknown often harbored both wonders and dangers. Among Earth's populace, a quiet optimism reigned. Streets bustled with commerce that included goods from a dozen alien worlds. Students at the refounded Lunar Academy studied everything from xenobiology to warp mechanics. The old concept of fear of the alien, fear of borders, fear of the unknown, had eroded. A new generation looked at the starry night with excitement rather than dread. Catherine Liu, in the final chapter of her life, penned a memoir that circulated widely among scholars. Her words captured the essence of humanity's remarkable saga. In thinking to contain us, they set us free. In seeking to isolate us, they forced us to unite. When we returned to the galactic stage, we transformed not just ourselves, but the galaxy that once feared us. Only time will tell if we can forge a brighter destiny together. But I have faith in our ability to look beyond walls and see the infinite possibilities that lie beyond. Thus ended the era of exile and began the epoch of exploration. Humanity, once banished by the Galactic Council, had forged an empire of its own, an empire built not on conquest, but on unyielding determination and an insatiable desire to push boundaries. And in forging that empire, they helped the galaxy transcend its old limitations, demonstrating that even the greatest barriers could become doorways to something greater, if only one had the courage to step through.